What if your biggest business breakthrough could only come after hitting rock bottom? I've definitely felt that before. And my guest today, who is one of the folks I've had on a few times before, he's one of the most requested guys back because he just gives so much. His name is Theo Lucier, and he's the founder of Forgotten Health. He's a veteran entrepreneur. He's been in the trenches. Previous episodes, we really went deep into like the dark places and also the successes, the ups and downs of his journey. We talk a lot about here. And basically here in this episode, he shares the raw, revealing story of walking away from a lot of that stuff, these companies that he grew, and basically how he spent all this time in uncertainty to reimagine everything he's done in business. And he's coming here with a bunch of powerful insights in how it relates to growing your business, living a better life, and really what matters most. So if you've questioned your path or ever felt stuck between chapters of business, your life, all of the above, I've been there. I know a lot of friends who are just like me, have been there as well, and are currently in there. This episode's for you. So don't want to stay stuck, want to keep that momentum. That's why Theo is awesome. But before you get into that, I urge you to click pause on this episode and go check out the AI clone I built around this entire show, this podcast, over 600 episodes. You can chat with me or any of the guests I've had on my show, including Theo here, and like literally ask any questions and break down maybe a personal scenario you're going through and get direct feedback, kind of like a mentor, and you get it accessing the clone I built. It's totally free over at hustleandflowchart.com/clone. Now let's get into this chat with Mr. Theo Lucier. With smaller budgets, shorter timelines, and sky-high expectations from customers, growth is feeling kind of painful for a lot of business owners right now. But HubSpot's here to help you out. They just announced over 200 major product updates that makes the impossible feel a lot more possible when it comes to growth. They have something called Breeze, which is HubSpot's suite of new AI tools that helps you get through all the busy work and into that more impactful work. They also have something called Breeze Copilot, which is your sidekick to assist with a bunch of different tasks and boost productivity. They also have Breeze Agents to help automate a lot of manual, time-consuming work and also add extra expertise throughout your workflows. And then they have Breeze Intelligence, which is this big comprehensive picture of your prospects that shows you who's most likely to become loyal customers. They've also reimagined their marketing and content hubs, so they have a whole bunch of new ways that you can create better content. There's updated features there to generate better leads, and also tons of ways to up-level your marketing and revenue forecasting. So try this out for yourself. Get ready for some growth without the growth pains. Visit HubSpot.com/spotlight to see them all and demo them for yourself. What's happening, dude? We're back for the fourth time, right?
Yeah, that's
great.
it.
You might be the one that's been on this show longer than other guests. I mean, now Matt Wolf, he's a guest, so you know
right.
he's guested a handful of times, but yeah, you're back. Shoot, I mean, you said you listened to the previous episodes, and you're like, they're just like, and you're pretty critical at things, you know, and like the biohacking especially. Like you've done your homework, and you're like, they're pretty good, man. Like they're very actionable.
I literally relax at night by researching esoteric health optimization stuff. I find it really interesting. And I was listening to those, and I'm like, man, I forgot about some of this stuff. So I started doing it again.
Like what did you pick up? What are a couple things?
Well, there was one of them where we were talking about psyllium husks.
Yeah, I remember that.
And cleaning out the gut. And so I just did 2 weeks of that. And honestly, dude, I had some Black Death come out. And, you know, most health problems, or just in general, like feeling bad during the day and not having very much energy.
Yeah.
A portion of that is if you have a compromised gut health.
I want to talk about this, and I'm so damn happy you're starting here because I just started today, partially inspired by you, partially just getting out of COVID and
Yeah.
thinking, I was like, this is a good time. I just started a chicken broth fast, just a couple day thing, but I mean, it's day one. I'm not that hardcore, not like you,
Yeah.
but with some gut, and I don't have all the list of, I can probably dig it up, but a few things that are basically targeting the gut. Just like, hey, I think this is a good time to focus there. And yeah, like, I don't know. I know you're all about the fast, so I don't want to detract from what you had in mind here on the gut health thing, but
There's two things to say. So, yeah, I'm actually starting a 7-day dry fast tomorrow.
we got to talk about that because I
We
mentioned
will,
that
yeah.
to a few people, and they're like, that's hardcore.
I'm a little nervous about it, but we'll get into that. But yeah, the psyllium husk thing, dude, I don't know why more people don't do this, because you get yourself a can of organic whole psyllium husks. It's going to cost you, I don't know, anywhere from 15 to 20 bucks. The can's like about this size.
Uh-huh.
And it'll last you forever. And if you take, I would say 2 to 4 tablespoons per day on an empty stomach, and you do that for a week, 2 weeks, it's like, this is going to sound gross, but it's like Velcro for old material that is stuck to the side of your gut.
Yeah.
And it hooks into it and it pulls it out. And like I try to do everything right. And I was horrified at what came out after it was on day 8 or 9. And I'm like, no, because it's like, it was just like old material, dude. It wasn't even poop, really. It was just like old petrified stuff that had been packed in there.
Well, think about all the crap. I mean, cancers, right? Like, that's all that stuff starts feeding off of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like if you go do colonics, it's like expensive, it's weird, there's a person in the room, and it doesn't do your entire digestive tract. It only does like a small portion of the end, where if you take psyllium husks on an empty stomach, it's from top to bottom, and it grabs that stuff and it pulls it out. And that right there, that mechanical removal, the old stuff, allows your gut to heal. It stops it from being slowly poisoned by old material that's in there.
Yeah.
And then it exposes more of the gut surface area to food that you eat, so you get more nutrition from the food that you eat.
That makes sense. And it's top of mind right now because I'm teaching my daughter. She actually knows a lot about anatomy and stuff. And there's a book talking about the small intestine, the big intestine, and how it all works, and how food goes in your bloodstream from your small intestine, and then large is where it all is, kind of, all the extra. And if you're scraping out like the inside of both of those, cleaning them out, you're just making room for good stuff in your gut, no more nutrients.
I mean, dude, you look great. How old are you now?
Thanks, bro. 39. So
yeah, I mean, because you've been into the health stuff for a while, hey?
I have. I mean, it's been, I got to credit my wife, Heather. She's been on it with just bringing a bunch of clean stuff into the house. But I mean, I think stress is like taking that down was my biggest focus. And I think we talked about that in this episode too, is the why behind the business. Like, I've had to define that. And,
let's get into it. I mean, so I know you transitioned a little while ago now, and did you turn the dial back on stress and hustle culture, or kind of what was going on there?
Yeah, like I've realized, since Matt and I were doing a whole bunch of stuff, and it was a lot of fun, but there was that period of time, there was like a good 9-10 months where I didn't know exactly what I wanted, and it was cool. I had a lot of downtime, but it was a lot of I'd say more anxiety crept in, because I'm like, whoa, what's my next move,
I feel that.
And I think a lot of folks, because I brought this up before, and I've had people message me and say, yep, I get it. So then you find, what's my why? And that, it's not perfect, but I found, all right, I get some momentum. I like to co-create, collaborate. But then what I've found is just I've been in more tech than I thought I would be, like AI type stuff, different just super interested. I'm like, you know what? There's a positive side to this. Like, how do I make my life better because of this? And using tools or whatever workflows that I can kind of automate or have my team even support me on, so I can get more time with my family, and been traveling more, just outside more too. Like, I'll hold myself up but do like little sprints, and then just try to get out. Whereas before it was just like go all day, and grind through, and then like I wouldn't have much for my family or even anyone else. It'd just be kind of on edge feeling. So
you don't have enough left for yourself after that.
that's right, man. So what I've called is like creating bumpers in my days, in my life, and like deliberately putting those throughout the days. Like this morning, I didn't really get to work until like 10ish. Like, took my daughter to school. You walk portion of that, and I just took it easy. Like, took the long way home in the car. I listened to some stuff, some podcasts, and yeah, that's a good start to the day. It's like a slow morning. Jiu-jitsu too. That's another thing I've added into the mix. Doing some wrestling. So
yeah,
I think all of that's been
You're doing the jiu-jitsu and wrestling.
Just jiu-jitsu, but like,
okay,
I've never done anything like that where it's
really
physical. Wrestle. It's good for the nervous system, is what I've found, for mine at least.
It's amazing. So when I was 14, I had a father who left very suddenly, like in less than a week, and it was just gone forever. It's just a really nasty divorce that my parents had. And I actually credit me starting a martial art at that age and doing the punching, the kicking, the yelling, the fighting, and like all that. It just discharged all the angst that could have been there from that.
Interesting. 14. So, because my parents separated right around then too. And okay, and I know a lot of other friends right around that teenage time frame.
Yeah, I think martial arts, particularly for men, it's just like you get that competitive spirit, that physical competitive spirit that I think matters.
Well, let's talk about that, because I've talked about, breath work is great, working out's good, but what I've found, I've been told, I have a body worker I go to, and she's pretty tapped in, she's intuitive. She's the one that brought it up to me.
Right.
She noticed as she was working on me, like, she's like, your nervous system kind of and I couldn't, she feels these like little micro movements, but she's like, it's responding and tensing up at certain times, like in areas of your body, but like, and she was like, she's the one, have you ever wrestled? Like, do you get that aggression out in a healthy way? And she's like, running's good, weightlifting, which I was doing, still do, kind of on the running part. But she's like, that's just stirring it up. It's not really letting it out,
Yeah.
What's your take on some of that stuff?
I think she's 100% accurate. Rolfing, deep tissue fascial therapy, they have a whole system around, they call it the issues in the tissues. And I've done a Rolfing 10 series, and that was kind of my first. Yeah, it's great, and it was my first exposure. I did that one, yeah. But that was
kind of liked it. It was weird.
It's awesome. I did. Did you do the rectal one?
No, there's a rectal.
There is. So I didn't go full rectal, but the dude put a glove on and like pushed in through the perineum, hooked my tailbone, and yanked it down with most of his body weight. It was wretched. But
didn't know that was part of the protocol. But
yeah,
I guess makes sense. Yeah.
My posture was better afterwards. I'm serious.
Straight up. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I had an injury there. But I am a believer that emotions, beliefs, feelings that don't serve you are stored in the body, and it's helpful to discharge those in a way that works for you. So, owning a business, and especially coming out of the hustle culture that you and I were exposed to, especially back when, we were in the Dan Kennedy GKIC groups, and, that was back when some of the gurus of the time are really pushing hustle culture, that gets stored in your nervous system as charge. And how do you release that? I mean, there's I mean, dozens, probably hundreds of therapies, somatic therapies and such, but martial arts alone will do that. Rolfing will do it. Like intentional psychedelic use will do it. Well, I think that in our work culture that we have in our industry, there's this idea that everything is mental and everything's in your head and everything's in the mind, and that you can think your way out of these feelings, emotions, beliefs that don't serve you. And to a certain extent, that's true. But how many people have we known that have gone to a Tony Robbins event or some other kind of motivational event, and they're super fired up for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, a week, a month, and then they go back to baseline because that charge is still stored in their body. So I think you need to do both. I think do the Tony Robbins, read the self-help books, and like get into some therapy to release these beliefs that don't serve you. And I don't mean talk therapy. I mean actual like what you're doing, like martial arts or Rolfing or intentional psychedelic therapy or PSYCH-K is another really good one. Like PSYCH-K is an amazing. It's like psychedelic therapy with no psychedelics in 20 minutes.
Whoa, I don't know about that. Okay.
PSYCH-K is amazing. It's like psych, like psyche, psych-K, and it's a therapy that's been around a while. It's got a cult following. You don't hear much about it because, the people that need to find it, and it's amazing. It's one of the, I've told customers about it that have emailed me, and like they've literally sent me testimonies. I'm not even the one that did it. I'm not trained in PSYCH-K, but incredible for releasing stuff that doesn't serve you. My first time I did it, I had the most vivid dreams for the next 2 days afterwards because my body was discharging all the stuff.
Whoa. Can you walk just high level? I mean, like I pulled it up on my screen, but I don't want to read it. Like, what's your 30-second overview?
It's like psychic surgery. So imagine you're there's like, here's the easy way to explain it. Imagine there's like this zit or like this boil on your skin, and it's super ripe, and it needs to pop and drain. You need to lance it, and then it drains, and then it heals, and then there's no mark on your skin at all after a few days. So imagine doing that, but with your emotional body. And so when I first went, I swear to God, dude, I had like PTSD from my first business.
Yeah.
And
we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I had a horrible business partnership, and that's where I first learned that not everybody gets into business to help people or like actually be in business for business. It's a lot of people get into business for ego, and that's what I was dealing with, and on my business partner's side, and it was a really stressful relationship for a long time, and like so I went in for that, and I knew that it had worked when I could like drive by our old office and I wouldn't like tense up and like get annoyed or triggered, I guess is the word they use now.
You asked me about my partnership too. Like, so you were just talking about how like driving by, your old work, basically where you had your partnership and feeling that tenseness. Like, I know the feeling, been there. And so like I mentioned earlier, that gap that I had like 10 months or so after Matt and I split what we were doing in business, split our ways. Yeah, there was a time where just like, we're always buddies, still are. We were just hanging out, went to a Padre game the other day and had a blast, like a whole like afternoon and evening until late. So like still best buds. But you're right. Like when it's a new reality, you almost like have to define it a little differently. At least I did. And I even told Matt too, like for a while, there's like a phase of like, I don't know, you just don't really know how to like there's a different reality, I guess. It's different when you've had a partnership for so long. You're like, you're
Dude,
friends, but I don't know. It's hard to describe right now.
I get it, and I went through that weird purgatory after leaving my previous business because like I didn't know this until afterwards, but my self-worth, my identity was derived from my success in my previous business. And I thought I'd just be able to quit, walk away, go get into, online marketing and just crush it right away, and everything was great. And I went through this loss of identity and trying to find myself again.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Right there.
Through the template or portal of work, right? I think
It's a good way to put it.
yeah, it was like through the lens, I guess is what I'm trying to say, through the filter of work. I'm like, who am I? What do I want? What's my why? Like, why am I even doing business? Like, why does any of this matter? Like, it was, dude, for me, it was like a year.
Yeah.
And it got pretty like gnarly. Like, I remember kind of hitting rock bottom thought wise, because like I'd already done like 6 or 7 different business models, maybe more. Nothing was quite working, and like I'd lost. I think status is important to a lot of people.
That was in my head during that whole phase for sure.
Especially men, yeah. And like, I'll tell you what, dude. If you're going through a rough spot financially in your 20s, but you're going for it, you're really trying to make your business work, like people are like, oh yeah, champ, like go get them, and like they kind of help you, and they're very encouraging. If you're in your early 40s and going through that again, people are like, oh dude, what are you doing, man?
You're still trying, you're still
yeah,
doing
and everybody
thing.
tells you like that you messed up and you shouldn't do it, and they're not really that willing to help because I don't know why that comes from. Maybe they look at you as like, what was this dude thinking? But
Yeah.
I went through that, and I remember I got to the bottom of that mental process, and I just started laughing because I was like, oh, okay, well, this is the worst it can get, and like I'm totally fine. Like I have my health, and I know at the time it was like the aggravating factor during this purgatory time between businesses for me was the uncertainty.
Yes.
And I think that's why most people find regular paychecks more addictive than crack cocaine. That's a line from Felix Dennis. He wrote that great book,
Yeah.
How to Get Rich.
Yeah.
Because you can plan and there's no uncertainty. You're getting paid on Friday.
That's a good quote.
It's true. It's his quote. And I always remember that because I was like, man, that's why jobs are so addictive to people. They don't like them, but there's certainty. And I was going through this period of uncertainty, and then I had to really think about like, okay, well, why am I even in business? Like, what's the real reason here? Like, and so my ex-business partner's reason was ego. He wanted to look fancy. He wanted to look like he was in charge, and he wanted to tell people what to do. That was his reason for being in business, and that's why we had so much conflict, is because that doesn't really add value.
And you've obviously I'm assuming you extracted that from your own reflections, meditations.
Oh yeah. I mean, I did a whole.
I wasn't telling you that.
I did a whole. Well, actually, near the end, we got into it, and I told him that, and he was so enraged. He actually like screamed at me. He's like, "You're right."
Well, good on you for calling him out. Maybe you heard it.
It was. I mean, it was so silly. It's like, why are we even in this? But like, it's business partnerships work out for some people and not for others. But that introduced to me the concept of what's your why in business. Yeah. And I know Simon Sinek wrote a book on finding your why and all this. But for me, like at an older age, it's like very simple. It was am owning a business because I want it to support the exact lifestyle that I desire.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It goes without saying that your product or service should be awesome, because you're not going to be in business unless you're solving a problem for the customer in a unique way, better, faster, cheaper than somebody else. Like, so I mean, obviously you have a superior product or service. That goes without saying. But that's the reason to be in business, is to support the exact lifestyle that you want. So I sat back and I thought, and I'm like, okay, I've tried coaching, couldn't stand it. I did summits, they worked, they were cool, but at the end of a summit, it's like I'm working 7 a.m. to 9, 10 p.m. It's a launch model.
Oh yeah.
And at the end of it, I'm skinny, fat. My testosterone's destroyed from excess cortisol. I look terrible. And I'm like, oh, God, now I got to go do another one. So I didn't want that. I'm really mobile all the time. We just talked about before the call, I was in San Diego, and then I was in Nevada, and then I was in Montana, and now I'm in Minnesota. And so it's like, it's hard for me to do real-time calls or coaching or summits or stuff like that, where you kind of got to be on lockdown. So I was like, okay, I'm in the health niche. I really like supplements. I take a lot of them. I know a lot about them. I like formulating them. A supplement business allows me to scale, and scale hugely. I think it needs to be said that in the info marketing business, there's not very many companies above $250 million in revenue a year. In the supplement business, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And
I think info marketing businesses will probably go down because of AI and the fact that there's just so much information already that's free, easy to get to.
I mean, you got Agora, right? And they do, I think they started in financial publishing, and that's kind of still their biggest moneymaker, and offers around that. I mean, they're obviously massive. And I'm sure there's a few others, but like supplement companies that are over 100 million are everywhere. So I was like, okay, like obviously the scale works, even though it's a physical product. And also, when I was really diving deep into what kind of business I wanted to support the exact lifestyle that I wanted, I was like, okay, like a supplement business I can run from anywhere in the world. The work, for the most part, is time shifted.
Yeah.
So I don't have appointments. I don't have scheduled calls. I'm not rendering a service like coaching, where I have to follow up with people and be on a live call with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a physical product that fulfills a physical need. In the health industry, there's really only three things you're going to sell to: weight loss, energy, or pain. Those are your three big markets. So I chose energy. And that's a need that doesn't go away for people. Most people, especially older people, always want more energy. And if you're selling a info product, in a lot of cases, it fulfills a psychological need. And psychological needs come and go.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's kind of by whatever the trends are at the point. But yeah,
Correct.
energy, it's only going to increase the older you get.
Yeah, energy, weight loss, pain, joint pain. It's like, these are all things you can. It's perennial. It's always so. I was like, okay, like that's. And what lifestyle do I want? It's like, well, I want to wake up when I want to wake up, and work in a scheduled time block in the mornings. That's when I'm the most productive, and then work out, and then work some more in the afternoon, and be done. And you can kind of do that with a business selling hard products, at least the one that I'm creating.
Did you have, like, because you've been at the supplement thing for a while, and you've told me, obviously you've learned a ton, like how it's marketed, the people in the industry. So my initial thought, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like, your parents separated young, abruptly. I can relate, many can. As men, a lot of us are doing things maybe more cerebral, our nervous system. And I'm thinking of trauma, is like just the stuff that's stored in the body. I know Gabor Mate talks about this, but the Myth of Normal, that massive book. I listened to it. I didn't read it. But like, it goes to, like, yeah, it causes diseases, and like obviously other things in your life develop if you don't address the trauma or the thing that might be holding you back from whatever it is. And it's like a roundabout way to get to like where you're at now. You had to go through a whole bunch of stuff and work on
Yes,
yourself to get to that business model
I
of what you're
did.
describing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really interesting, and I bet a few people listening to this could connect with this because everybody talks about the young hustlers, but not a lot of people talk about switching horses midstream in your 40s. I mean, I'm
There you go.
46 now,
Yeah.
and
You
when
look great, by the way, brother.
dude, this
Seriously.
lighting is terrible. I'm looking at you, and I'm like, I got the freaking Chippendales guy, the
Thank
bright
you.
white
Yeah, buddy.
teeth.
I'm in
But
my studio. You're on the road,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you're good.
yeah, exactly. But when I was going through this process, so I was arrogant. In my 20s, I went through all the self-development stuff around money and business and success, and I went to the seminars, and I got the secret DVD and did all the law of attraction stuff, and I read
Yeah.
all Dan Kennedy's books and did the John Assaraf programs around money, and eventually I started doing pretty dang good in
Yeah.
that industry, and I had a very healthy income for a long time, and I was like respected in my little tiny niche and in that corner of the industry in that city, and people knew who I was, so I went into online marketing thinking, because I knew the basics of direct response marketing, that I this would just take off in 3 to 6 months, and I'd be set. And it didn't, and it just kept getting worse. And I had to go through this alchemical process of essentially like ego dissolution around my work identity, figuring out what I wanted to do, figuring out what kind of business I wanted to do, and then supporting that with physical and energetic practices. And through that process, now that I look back at it, I'm like, wow, like what a gift it was to go through this again in my early to mid 40s, because it was like gnarly. But
Yeah.
there's a great book that Dan Kennedy used to recommend called Thick Face, Black Heart. The author's name is Ching-Ning Chu. It's an amazing business book, and it's savage. It's like the most savage self-help business book I've ever read. But there's a quote in that book that says, steel is forged between the hammer and the anvil. And another quote is, gold does not fear the refiner's fire. So at first I was all sad and weirded out that I was like in my 40s, like on fumes on my bank account, trying these different, things, and they weren't working business-wise, different offers and such.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, dude, like, did I mess up? And I went through this grieving process of walking away from my previous business as suddenly as I did, because it was a sudden decision, and just burning it all down. And I had to go through like a grieving process to like release that. And me, I like to get right to the point. I like really practical,
Yeah.
methods. So that's where I got into PSYCH-K. That's where I got into intentional, fully staffed, professionally run, intentional use of psychedelics to release this stuff. And then I even did some off-the-wall stuff. Like there's a form of homeopathy called Autopathy. It's like homeopathy on steroids, and it doesn't use any remedies. Homeopathy has like 5,000 different remedies. It's very complex. Autopathy just uses your body's own information, and it essentially cleans and purifies the information in your energetic bodies, like your mental body, your emotional body, and eventually it trickles down your physical body. And it's a pretty simple method, but it's like really strong. And like I found that, and I did that for 6 months, and it really cleaned a lot of the noise out, because I had my signal to noise ratio in my body was not great because you know, it's stressful, dude. When you're
Well,
in
I'm
this
curious about
purgatory
autopathy.
area, the
Yeah.
Autopathy's so worth it.
And see, I don't know anything about that either. I always like a couple of these things stand out to me. I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm
Yeah.
trying to write it down really quick to look it up. I'm like, well, I
You
got to
want the
hear it from
short
you.
story on Autopathy?
Please, yes.
Okay. So Hahnemann, the guy who invented homeopathy, yeah, he was born in the 1700s. Near the end of his lifespan, he was still practicing homeopathy, and he had just started. He never stopped improving the system of homeopathy. So he was in his like deep 80s, still practicing every day, treating people. And for the last 10 years of his life, he was building out a system he called autopathy, which instead of using a remedy, you purify and energize the body's own information. You essentially clean it,
Okay. Yeah.
and then you provide it back to the body. And then the body uses that. Imagine there's like a blueprint for a house, and you hand it to a contractor, and a child took a crayon and went like this all over the blueprint, and the contractor's looking at it and can't really read it.
Yeah.
So then imagine you give the contractor a pristine blueprint and there's no marks on it. You can read it easily. That's what autopathy does for your body's own information.
Okay. So you're cleansing it of whatever has been layered over the years.
It's a constitutional homeopathic treatment. So constitutional stuff is like, if you have somebody that's like been fat their whole life, even when they were a kid, that's like their constitution, it's called. This is so strong that it addresses and changes that. And so my constitution at that time, psychologically and mentally and emotionally, was not great, because I was like, what have I done, dude?
Sure.
Like, I shouldn't have left this old business. This one's not working. Like, my gosh. And so I did the autopathy, and it started to clear it out right away. It was like, because I had the really vivid dreams again, and like my mood shifted. And so like for people that may not have access to, the plant medicines and such, like autopathy for $50, they even sell the bottle on Amazon now in the U.S. It's actually from the Czech Republic. But to finish the story, so Hahnemann died before he could finish refining the system of autopathy, and there's a guy named Jiří Čajkovský, a guy from the Czech Republic. He's a homeopath, and he came across Hahnemann's research and he finished it.
Wow. Okay.
And so over the last 20 years, 25 years, Jiří's been and his son have been finishing it, and they wrote a couple books on it. They've been translated to English, and like you can do like a mental emotional body treatment, which is what I did. It's weird, but you take the autopathic bottle, you put a little bit of water in it, and you inform it with this with your seventh chakra, and then you do the dilution to potentize or potentiate that information, and then you feed it back to the body by holding it like right here, and you can feel it.
Third eye area.
It's really weird.
But so you're charging it more or less, right? Is that kind of like what people...
Yeah, you inform the water with the information from this chakra,
top of your head.
And then you do a homeopathic dilution. So it's measured in liters. So you start with a low potency, and over time you move your way to a high potency. And there's stories of people that have done this with like, they just like let the water run through it all night, and they like blast off when they do it. I didn't do that. I was like very deliberate and slow about it over 6 months. And then you inform your body's energetic centers with the purified information. Again, your body takes it and is like, oh, thank you, like, cool, I'm going to take that in, and then it does whatever it does in the quantum realms and helps fix you. But you can do, for physical problems, you use breath or spit. And
wait, okay. This is totally new, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, Theo's lost his mind. Okay, so breath, spit for physical.
Yep.
And so I want to like point people to if there's a resource or something that people can start.
Autopathy.com. So
Okay, that's easy.
think of it as autopathy.
Yeah.
That's how it's spelled, like autopathy. And you'll see Jiri's website. It's interesting. I wouldn't say it's the best organized, but we got to give them credit. I mean, these people are Czech, and they literally
Doing the work.
Yeah, they're doing the work, man. I mean, it worked great.
I got a lot of family from Czechoslovakia area, so it's in my blood. I got to get on this, man.
They're super into these kind of treatments.
I didn't know.
And actually, that bottle is made in the Czech Republic because the Czech Republic is probably the best country in the world for glass blowing. They have like a really deep practice of that and have for a long time. And like that autopathic bottle's not easy to make.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm so basically it gets down to your cells, it looks like. And
it goes, it's if you want to really get into that, it goes down to the DNA level.
Okay. So you're reworking. Yeah, it's basically clearing through this process, which go explore, do your own research, autopathy.com. And Perplexity is actually nice for this too, because you can even reword, if you're using Perplexity.ai, one of my best favorite
what
search
is that?
tools. It's
Tell
like
me
a
about
Google replacement. It's a search engine, but it's pulling in a bunch of sources and it's using AI. But that's what I use for my searching, and you can refine it. You can maybe reword it to explain it to me like I'm, in high school, for instance, or even
I didn't even know that existed. I would love to do that because I find all this stuff by deep researching, but that's me doing it.
I'll show you later because you can even search through academic papers specifically or do more of a broad search and then add stuff to it. But yeah, so that's where I'm kind of looking stuff up quickly as you're talking.
Autopathy is, I think it was after my first 3 or 4 weeks of doing that. That's where one morning I got up and I started laughing and I just knew it was all going to be okay. I was yeah. So it like cleared out all the negative vibes, the anxiety, and like, because there was a while where I was waking up at like 3 or 4 in the morning. I couldn't go back to sleep. Because it'd been so long. I mean, it's like I'd never experienced that before.
Yeah. Well, I get it, and I think a lot of people get it, and this goes back to probably why a lot of folks find that comfort in a job or comfort in a bad relationship. Could be your wife, your husband, or business partner, or whatever. All the above.
Uncertainty.
It's uncertainty, man, and you're scared of the change, the unknown. But obviously, life always changes. We feel like we're in control. We ain't in control of anything, pretty much, other than, I guess, our actions as best we can control those. Yeah. But even those are driven by exactly what we're talking about here. So,
yeah,
I'll just share, one of the big things I did in my gap, and I think I've kind of talked about it here, but, there was a good year. I was in a men's group, and I'm still chatting with them. I'm just not in there as daily. I should go back, though. It's just whatever excuses come up. They're probably listening. Trevor, Mike, hey, sorry. It's been a little quiet. But we did Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson. Yeah. Some people love him, some people hate him. Doesn't matter. He has a really cool process. It's basically self-reflection. What the heck was it called?
I've heard of this. Was it good?
Yes, self-authoring program.
Yeah, that's it.
It's like the best $15-$20 I've spent. But it is work. I think there's a 2-for-1 special, so you can literally buy it and give it to your best friend or whatever, or your spouse. And it goes through your you could choose the paths, but you got your previous life, your past, you have your current, and then you have your future. And it just, the way, and it's been a handful of months since I've done it, but I have the copy of all this. I really want to go back and reread what I wrote. Because going through the process, it legit took me a straight up month. You're writing a novel. So many words, tens of thousands. And
oh my gosh.
I mean, I wrote a lot. But it was flow. I would throw on, Brain FM in my headphones. I'd have all these wacky, I do that every day, frequencies. And then I just zone out. I did it late at night where no distractions. And after, and I would talk about my dad's suicide. I would talk about my parents breaking up. Foster daughter we had going back to her mom after a whole, 15 months, stuff that felt super traumatic and life changing, which was. But then I let it go, and it was just like poof. Okay, it's on paper. I just went to the deepest place that I typically would never go to, and now I can read back, and I'm not like going out there and publishing this thing, but now I feel like I can quantify it or put it in words a little more than I ever had before. And
there's power to writing it down. I think it's a way of discharging it if you really think about it.
And I tried not to overthink it and tried to flow with it. It could be messy. And the beauty of AI and all these things I do now is if I wanted to clean it up and maybe talk to myself, this is actually what I really want to do, is load that into, ChatGPT, Claude, or something else. And then literally I can have a conversation and, ask myself questions. What would previous Joe, what were some of the old ways of being, or I've already defined what future Joe can look like and what I see for myself, but maybe I can poke holes in that and even expand it further and almost have a coach, but based off of what I already wrote from my heart without any other tech or whatever getting in the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's how I like to now with all this tech and AI stuff. I'm like, that's great, but then there's the human side. It's how do you extract that or empower yourself? Fuel what you got, and then use the tech to enhance it. I want to pause this for a moment. Shout out a friend of mine, Sonia Thompson. She's been on this podcast a few months back. She hosts a podcast called Inclusion and Marketing. It's also brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So her show, Inclusion and Marketing, digs into all the important topics around belonging, diversity, customer experience, and really bringing people and rallying them around your mission. You're literally including more people behind what you think is most important. So it's an awesome topic. She's made a full podcast about it. Listen to Inclusion and Marketing wherever you get your podcast. Are you tired of the hassle of building sales funnels? I totally get it. I've been there. You started your business not to be chained to your laptop all day. You built it for freedom. And thankfully, there is an all-in-one platform that makes it easier for you so you can focus on attracting customers online. The platform is called Kartra, and it gives you all the tools you need to grow your business. The best part is Kartra comes stocked with all the done-for-you campaigns, so you don't have to worry about thinking about building from scratch. Everything is designed, connected, and written for you already. It also leverages AI to help you with some of this writing. All you got to do is just customize this to your liking, and then boom, you got a fully built sales funnel for you. This is marketing made easy, so go try it out for free. 30-day free trial over at hustleandflowchart.com/Kartra will get you there. So again, that's hustleandflowchart.com/Kartra.
In my case, it was like a two-part process. I had to discharge feelings, beliefs, and emotions that didn't serve me. But that's step one. But step two, you have to install ones that do, which is harder, actually.
Because it's a blank slate, right? And you're still in it. You're like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, luckily, I mean, the right things come to you at the right time, I found this book called Reality Transurfing.
Okay.
And certain books work for certain people, and that the way this guy wrote about creating your own reality, it just spoke to me on a level that none of the other law of attraction stuff ever did. And the author he's a Russian quantum physicist who knew that the observer affects the reality of the experiment, right? All quantum physicists do. And he must have studied mysticism for some time. Not a lot is known about him. But he wrote this book that's like a fusion of like practical mysticism and quantum physics.
Wow.
And he released it to the world, and then he disappeared. But
that's always intriguing.
Yeah, and it's been translated into English, and the translation's a little rough at times. But that book, like, I got it. Like
Yeah.
after I read that book, I was like, oh, this is how I install, like, essentially like a new OS.
Yeah.
And I did, and it's not like overnight, but I mean, I am so happy to have gone through this alchemical process because it forced me to improve in ways that I simply wasn't when I was stagnant in my previous business doing something that I didn't really like doing.
Dude, everyone can relate. So I'll just say, like, I just plugged this in Perplexity because now I'm just using it as like part of a podcast, which
Yeah.
you always give me so many resources. That's why I'm like, okay, it's perfect. But yeah, like reality transurfing, it says the core concept is a method for controlling reality using our freedom of choice. And that the world reflects our perception of it, and we can choose different variants of reality development.
Wow,
So,
that's actually a really good summary because I'm going to use that tool tonight because one of the challenges with that book is it's super wordy and it's 800 pages long, and I've listened to it once and read it twice. That's how impactful it was on my life.
wow.
But that summary is really good.
I just texted it to you. There's a whole oh, actually, yeah, I'll take that. It's a whole thread. Well, you'll see all my mistypes of the whole thread of this thing, but I'll share it later where it's cleaner.
Some people naturally have it because at the core of reality transurfing is yes, you choose and you choose differently, but also you have to marry that to a feeling. And that's,
I think, well, we're humans, right? Like we're emotional creatures, so it can't be all up here.
You have to feel the result you wanted. You have to feel the reality that you want that you don't yet have. You have to visualize it, but you actually have to feel it. You have to have an emotional feeling, and that's what potentiates and activates that reality for you at a quantum level. That's what the whole book's about, and that's where a lot of the older style mid-2000s law of attraction stuff goes wrong because they don't tell you that. They're just like, oh, just visualize it.
Mm-hmm. And it will happen.
That's not how it works. So that's why it's actually hard, because it's like if you're down in the dumps and you're uncertain and you're unsure and you've got stress still in you from your previous business and your back's up against the wall because you got bills to pay and you're taking these huge risks, it's like hard to feel like you just made $1 million.
It's true.
That's where the work is with this method. But
you know what I found too is like when you are in that space and you haven't totally found your calm or whatever your baseline is of almost like a new reset.
Yep.
You can't find enough. Like you feel like you need to keep going for more. So maybe you do land a really good success, in that new thing, whatever you're doing. But then you're just like, but I can't stop now. Like I got to keep going because
when is it enough?
Well,
the honest question, when is it enough? I mean, look at Hormozy, dude. I mean, that guy is not stopping.
I know. And that's I credit the fact that I have a great wife. She's a stabilizer in my life, and I have 2 kids that force me to not, burn it out, because I think both of us, her and I, would both do that. But with their, this is why I have to put bumpers in my life, or else I'm going to drag that energy into my kids' lives and then like perpetuate maybe some thing, hand them some angst or whatever it is that I might have. But that's how I see it. It's helped.
Do you think hustle culture has kind of died out, or it's still a thing in our world?
Well, we're seeing it from, like you said, Hormozy, and I try not to judge anyone because everyone's life's different, and it's
exactly,
and that's great.
And you judge, and the universal balance equation, you'll get judged back.
It's true. Yeah, in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's in different forms. I mean, if you look at TikTok, I'm not really on there, but like there's hustlers on there. There's people with, even in the AI world, there's people cranking out all this stuff, trying to, like maybe it's the new tool, and they're just like, this is the fad. I got to throw something out there. Or
well, biz op is always gonna biz op.
Bingo. I think
Yeah.
that's always going to be a
That's
thing. I mean,
always going to be. It's just what it is. I mean, I was really caught up in hustle culture for a long time, dude.
yeah.
Like, I think the cortisol, I mean, but the level of cortisol exposure I had was just,
Oh, dude. Yeah.
but it got me here. I'm like, all right, this point of this business is to support the exact lifestyle that I want. So what do I actually want?
That's good. So what would you, I'm thinking of, like, is there a workflow or something you do daily to kind of keep yourself on point right now? Because we talked a lot about like that transition point, but now and you're trying to search, you're searching for what the next place you're going to land still. I mean, like that's life anyway, but
Yeah,
yeah.
when you mean like workflow in terms of like tactical like during the day, or do you mean like what how the business
It
operates like
honestly, it's
macro?
kind of like because you have a supplement business. That's
Hmm.
one thing. Of course, there's a lot of I don't know. I guess when I ask that, I'm thinking in general to have a great life, to feel great, to
Mm,
stay showing up every day,
mm.
to be fired up with that new reality that you want to keep painting for yourself.
What a great question, dude.
I credit the fasting. I'm just kidding.
Wow. No, it's such a good question, and it just I just had a memory that's I was thinking about that a lot. And Felix Dennis talks about this in the book How to Get Rich, which he wrote to make fun of self-help book gurus.
Awesome.
That's why he gave it a vulgar title like that. He's British.
Yeah.
And then he ended up writing one of the best self-help books ever for entrepreneurs.
I haven't read that. I got to go read it, man.
It's
I've
so
heard of
good.
it.
It's
Okay.
so good. But I think that you have to pick something in business that you have a personal interest that you're excited about, because you're just not going to have the energy to deal with the uncertainty and the stress otherwise. I do know guys in the supplement business that aren't interested in supplements at all, but they are business operators and assemblers. So it took me a long time to kind of figure this out by like watching what was going on, but there's lots of dudes in the supplement world that they don't know anything about health, they don't care, um, but they are really good at assembling businesses. Like they assemble a copywriter, and they'll assemble somebody that creates an offer, and then they have their tech guy, and
Mm.
they put them all together and they manage that. And that's what they're passionate about, is managing and running and operating a business.
Yeah.
Where I love researching weird, esoteric, practical health stuff. And so I I do the supplement formulation. I mean, you remember like back in the Dan Kennedy days, like there weren't copywriters.
No.
There's copywriters everywhere now. I don't know who started selling it as a biz op opportunity, like,
That's true.
but they're everywhere. But like when I learned how to write copy, I had to, because I couldn't hire Clayton Makepeace for 100 grand, which was your only option back then. So if you owned a business and you were getting into DR, you had to learn to write copy. So I do that part, but I took that wealth dynamics test.
Right. Yeah.
You ever take that?
Assessment. I
Yeah.
have, and I forgot what it's been
It
a
was so
while.
good, man,
Yeah.
because I was starting to feel bad about myself, because like I'm like in the supplement world, there's guys that are really good at paid media, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's like I don't have the level of autism needed to like stare at these spreadsheets and
That's
like be
true.
so good at these CPAs and all this stuff. And like I took the wealth dynamics test, and it was whatever it was, 35 bucks, 100 bucks. And I was like, oh, like my whole thing is like I'm a creator. And
Yep.
okay, so in business, you focus on your strengths and you outsource the weaknesses. In sport, you focus on your weaknesses. It's the opposite. And so I used to be an athlete in college, had a partial scholarship, athletic scholarship in college, for Olympic style Taekwondo. And in there, all I did is focus on my weaknesses, and I brought that mindset to business, and that is the wrong thing to do.
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah, so here I was thinking, like, in business, oh, I need to get really good at these, like, esoteric spreadsheets and all these numbers and this craziness, but it was like pulling teeth for me. And then I took that test, and they're like, yo, like, here's your strengths, go all in on that, outsource the rest. And it was like such a breath of fresh air for me, dude.
I'll take that. I gotta look it up, and if I haven't taken it, it's because I've taken all these other
I know,
tests, like...
we're always doing all these assessments, but
Yeah.
I will say, to understand myself as a business owner and somebody who is in the process of scaling up, it's like, or even, I probably will never have a business partnership again, but after I took that test, it's one of the reasons that I realized that the previous business partnership didn't work, is because we both had the same emphasis, we were basically the same.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so if your business partner needs to be better, he needs to be good at stuff that you're not good at.
Yeah.
And
there's,
right? And
things like
those are the
visionary
partnerships
and
that work.
integrator.
Yeah. And so that was a big takeaway. So yeah, what a crazy journey it's been, but a good one. I mean, it's like, dude, you could pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars, being a professional student for these self-help courses, or you can just go all in on a business and see how you do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and I think as an entrepreneur, man, you're jumping in the deep end. You don't know what's going to happen, and no one,
Yeah.
I don't think, can. How could you? But like, at least you're creating a new reality, and
Yeah.
I think it's the best form of self-help, right? It's probably why
Yes.
it became the book
Yeah.
that Felix wrote. So, I mean, and this is why I love chatting with you, man, because you're so well researched, but you can communicate it. And if there's something that's a little esoteric, then we'll go to Perplexity and ask for it to, speak to me as a high school level.
Yeah, I mean, so reality transurfing,
Yeah.
you can listen to for free on YouTube, and it's really well organized.
Okay, that's good to know. I see that there's some links to it here.
There's a guy that read the entire book into YouTube, and like, I remember I had been in Minnesota for a long time, and that's kind of where I went through this alchemical process. And then I was driving back through the country to go back to San Diego, and I was listening to that book, and by the time I hit the middle part of South Dakota, I was like, oh my god, this is it. Yeah, it like clicked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here you are. And it's like, look, I mean, I'm not doing anything crazy right now, but I can see that, like, things have shifted, and they continue to shift and get better every month. And it's like, that's what's exciting. Some people just have this naturally.
Yeah.
And I've met them, and like, they're not even aware that any of this stuff exists, but everything they touch turns to gold. Those are people that they naturally, they just have it. And that's not something that I had.
I think there's a lot of, and I don't know if it's true, but I feel we all have different upbringings, different things that were passed along, or traumatic experiences that pop through.
Yeah.
Trauma is obviously a scale that can be defined all across the board. It's however we define it, kind of like this. But, bro, like, I'm a full believer that, we control our reality in the sense that we control, like, we're controlling the chat with each other right now. Whoever's listening and watching is controlling this, and it can open up a new series of events. And when you're doing this, I'm choosing not to be with my wife in this state, or watching YouTube instead of recording a podcast, and I don't know, there's different realities, or just driving the car somewhere like that. I feel like this field of possibility opens up wherever we direct our attention, but it's up to us. Like, that's the choice we get to make in life.
It's your choice. You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose your reaction to it. And I have this conversation with a buddy of mine who his business it's about a year old right now, and he's been through hell and back, and it's been really rough for him. And I introduced him to this book, Reality Transurfing, and he's been loving it, and it's been a real eye-opener for him, because he's constantly reacting to a lot of the stressors that are in San Diego right now. Just the amount of people, the tourists, the crazy drivers, like just all of it. It's like very triggering for him. And I'm like, dude, a big principle of the book is like you need to step back and you watch the movie unfold in front of you, and you're like a detached spectator.
Yeah, that's good. The observer.
And he's just like in it, like on the stage, like reacting to everything and interacting with everything in the play. And I thought that was a really good metaphor or thought model that the book introduces, is like be a playful observer, and one sentence that is always repeated in that book over and over again, and the author says, he's like, look, even if you don't do any of this other stuff because it's too hard, if you just carry this thought with you, it will be enough. And the thought is, the universe happens for me, not to me.
Yeah.
And that's just such a simple but profound mindset shift. If you actually believe that and think that all the time, you get signs for it all the time. Like even this week, I was like getting kind of stressed because like I've informed my list. I have a list of customers, health customers that subscribe to my newsletter.
Cool.
And I've told them, I'm like, hey, I'm doing this 7-day dry fast. Like it starts on Friday. And so like I had to, like last time I did a 5-day, I was kind of incapacitated the whole time.
You texted me and told me it's like you can barely stand.
Yeah, so I don't know if it'll be like that this time. It's supposed to get easier each one you do, but I was like, I had to front load all this work to scramble to get it done, right? And I was like getting stressed, and I'm like, hang on a minute, like this is happening for me because of the volume of work I was doing. I like made all these connections, and like I got some good copywriting ideas, and then I reconnected with some affiliates that could potentially send my new offer out that I just did, and like I just like clicked through all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This is why, so it's happening for me. It's not happening to me.
It is. Where can folks go to join your list or check out all the stuff you're up to? Like, what's the best place to send them?
So you're gonna laugh when you see the site because I'm not great at WordPress. But
You said this last time.
I know, but I have just a simple brochure site that's up that has all links to my products and a really good opt-in for my newsletter. So just go to forgottenhealth.com.
Cool.
It's literally, it's just forgottenhealth.com. Everything's on there. There's a very obvious like newsletter opt-in, and every Friday I send out something cool like Autopathy or dry fasting or whatever esoteric thing I've discovered that week.
Yeah, and that's you go deep and you don't hold it back, which is cool. Obviously, this is a taste for anyone who hasn't experienced yet. And if you like what you got from Theo here, like go check out the previous 3, 4, I don't know. Other episodes. And I
just love it that we talked about this purgatory that you can go into between businesses. Because, our friend Scott is kind of in it right now with that. And it was like, I was like, wow, it's not just me, it's like there's other people going through this too that, go through this stage. Brad, same thing. It's like
a lot of it.
Yeah, and I feel like in our culture and all we do, we just see the success stories all the time.
Yeah, and a lot of us put all the weight on ourselves too. It's like either the success, great, I did it, I made it happen, but then how about the failures? What's that other side of the coin?
Yeah.
And like, where could that lead you mentally, physically, all the above, like dark places?
Yeah. Brad used to recommend a book. I've never read it, but it was called Failing Forward.
I've heard of it.
And he said it was really, really good, and it really helped him when his original monster-sized business failed during the crash of '08.
Yeah. John C.
Yeah.
Maxwell wrote that one, Failing Forward.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but it's been recommended.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
I love the reason. Again, every time I walk away with like 10 books, like my next year of reading now is on my plate.
What's funny is like I got so frustrated for a while, I stopped reading like business books and these self-help books, and now I'm back on it because I'm like, okay, I cleared out all the noise and like the angst and the limiting beliefs. I mean, there will always be more limiting beliefs to clear, but I got rid of the log jam.
Yeah.
And now I'm back to like reading books. I'm so excited. I finally just got Breakthrough Advertising, the Eugene Schwartz book. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one of those. Yeah. That's the classic, man. All about copywriting, advertising.
Yeah.
Here's an app. If you, it might be helpful for your reading ventures. If you listen to some, you can read at the same time. 11 Labs. Are you familiar with that company?
I've heard of it. I don't know what it is.
So 11 Labs is like they basically are the voice engine, like the audio engine in AI. Like a lot of the companies will use their technology. You can clone your voice, so you can give them like 5 minutes of your audio, and then literally it's trained, and then now you can give it scripts and have it say anything. Sounds perfectly like you. And you could do that for other people or get pre-trained voices.
Yeah.
But they have this app now. It's called Text Reader. And so if you go to 11 Labs, just look up 11 Labs Text Reader or just Reader. It's in your app, and like you can upload a PDF, your website, scan a book or whatever. And I've started to use that to have someone read it to me, but you can watch and look. You can speed read at the same time.
No way.
You can even train your own voice if you wanted to, so you're reading yourself the book. I mean,
wow.
It's pretty trippy.
I think I remember somebody. It might have been Hermosi because he's all about the hacks. But do you process the information more quickly when the book is read while you're visually reading it?
I do. I've noticed because I used to use a different app called Voice Dream, and it did something similar, but it was like a super robotic voice.
Okay, yeah, that's rough. Yeah,
but I got used to it.
Okay,
but yeah, the whole thing of hearing it and reading it simultaneously does something for me. Sometimes it'd just be audio, but obviously there's certain books though you just got to go slow, and even like the physical book. I think it just depends.
Yeah, the reality Transurfing one it's the first 6 chapters it's like he's basically like setting the stage, and there's a lot of theory. He doesn't get to the applied stuff until after chapter 6, and so like that's pretty heavy. Like,
so you want to probably take it slow there.
Yeah, like there's some pages are so dense. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, it's pretty. But I mean, the author was an academic at one point, right? So that's always you're gonna have that kind of flowery language.
Yeah.
But what a cool topic, dude. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, I mean, we're going to have a 5th. We'll have more because I know I'm curious of how the fasting thing goes for you, and maybe
we should mention that. Well, I mean, people have heard dry fasting, so I don't want to just like leave it there.
True that. Yeah, we never.
Let's just do a short. You want to just do like a short synopsis of it?
Let's do a short synopsis because, like, just to set the scene, like, I've never done a fast. I'm currently doing a broth fast, chicken broth, and 2 days is my goal. But and I've asked you about. I've even mentioned you to others that have done fasting, like dry fasting, and like, dude, that's hardcore. What? Like,
okay. Yeah.
But
all right. So the question is, what is a dry fast? So it's no food, no water. So let's just make it real simple.
All right, let's start with why. Simon Sinek, why would you do that?
That's a great question. So it is the ultimate full body DNA, mental, spiritual reset that is available to you on this 3-dimensional plane. That's it. So It's like hitting a reset button for your cells, your DNA, your organs, everything. So what is it actually? Why would you want to consider a dry fast? Well, to start with, when you fast and you're intaking water or liquids, you lose muscle. So your body does a process called gluconeogenesis where it breaks down proteins into sugars that it can burn for energy. When you dry fast, a special enzyme is activated that shreds fat in the body and unhelpful tissue like tumors, scar tissue, diseased cells. It shreds them apart and it breaks them down for water. So it uses that, but that enzyme also means that you don't lose muscle. So when you do a liquid fast, like these, I talk to guys like, yeah, I did a 1 month like water fast. I'm like, great, you lost probably 20% of your heart muscle. It's like rough, you know, because your heart's a muscle and you lose muscle. So you don't lose any muscle when you do a dry fast. That's what originally got me interested in it. But then I found out that a dry fast repairs damaged DNA. It gets rid of all the sick zombie cells that aren't quite dead, but they just don't function well. It gets rid of them. It takes healthy cells and it pushes all the poisons that they have on the inside of the cell, pushes them out, and your body gets rid of it. And then you get stem cell releases in some cases too. And so this is a free whole body stem cell treatment. And that was kind of the main thing that I was after because I have all these injuries, particularly I had a lot of head injuries. And it used to affect me a lot more. I invested a lot of time and money in weird biohackery stuff to fix that, and it definitely did, but there's still some residual stuff, and there's no biohacking or medical thing I can do to like fix essentially scar tissue or old tissue in the brain that's been injured. But a dry fast will. So it'll go in there, it'll shred up the scar tissue, and then it'll release stem cells that will go in there and repair it and regrow the tissue. It's impossible to do that otherwise. Wow. I mean, you can go to Mexico and get stem cell injections, but it's not full body endogenous waves of stem cells released for days. And so you get a free stem cell treatment or two with dry fasting in addition to extreme detox and DNA repair. So that is the reason I'm doing it. Now,
it's huge.
Now that I've gotten to, this date and my whole list is following this now, I'm like, oh geez, I got to follow through now.
Yeah. So you're going 5 days is the plan. Like so,
7. I'm doing 7.
7. Yeah, you've done 5 before.
I've done 5. So for people listening, everything you need to know about this was on a YouTube channel run by a guy named August Dunning.
Okay.
And
so you're not a doctor, by the way. You're not obviously your own independent research, all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the Russian method of dry fasting, they have like 60, 70 years of clinical experience doing this in Russia. And August Dunning came across the Russian research. He wrote a book in English. It's called The Phoenix Protocol, and he has a YouTube channel by the same name. And he's in his 70s now, and he's a great proponent for it, and he talks about it. And I don't know how he does it, but he'll do these follow-along 7-day dry fasts, and he's like recording a video every day. I'm going to try it this time.
Do it. Are you going to post it somewhere?
Yeah. I just reactivated my old YouTube channel, so I'll be posting it on there. But
keep a lookout.
Yeah, and as far as my why, well, energy is the currency of life, right? And if you do a dry fast, everything gets repaired, your cells are working better, you have more energy. So you need a lot of energy to run a business. Plus, like, dude, I'm 46. Like, if I get married and have a kid, like, I mean, my kid's not going to be out of high school until what? I'm in my freaking 70s.
Yeah.
right? So
good looking, yeah.
or maybe 60s. So it's like I have to do these anti-aging strategies now.
Yeah.
And this is the best anti-aging strategy on the planet, and it's free. The catch is that it's really hard. It's grueling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's one of the hardest. The 5-day one was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I'm curious how this one will go, because each one is supposed to be easier than the last. And
okay.
If I could do it over again, I would have done a 1-day and then a 2-day and then a 3-day before the 5-day.
Got you. And just stair step up.
For some reason, when I've talked about this to people, I've had people just immediately just start doing it with no research, and you absolutely don't want to do that because you can permanently retard the production of stem cells in your body. It's a really big deal. So things happen in very specific time cycles down to the hour in dry fasting. So you can do a 1, 2, or a 3-day dry fast, and that is primarily just going to be a really good gut and liver repair. You don't get stem cells. If you go over 3 days, you have to complete a 5-day, because the stem cells start to be released on the 4th day. And if you stop the fast on the 4th day, you stop the stem cell release, and then it retards the production of them for a long time.
Wow,
afterwards.
That's huge. Yeah.
So if you go past 3, you have to do 5. If you go past 5, you have to do 7.
It's the cycle of the stem cells.
Because you get a second release if you do a 7-day. So I'm going for 2 stem cell releases this time, because I want to fix this old head injury stuff, dude. And
And I feel like we should do like a mini recap after you complete your dry fast, and just like a post-mortem of that.
Check this out, dude. So I had an eBay search going for 4 years for a RJL Quantum 4, which is a bioelectrical impedance cell analysis machine. And they're like, if you just go and buy one, they're like $3,000, and I got one for $500 from this really cool guy in Canada. Yeah. And I did a measurement today, and it tells you like how much water you have inside your cells, how much water you have outside your cells, your body fat percentage, how much muscle you have, and all these, and it gives you a score of your cell health that's called phase angle. Okay. And it's literally a direct number that corresponds to the amount of electrical charge your cell can hold. So diseased cells can hold less of an electrical charge, or older cells hold less, and young, healthy cells hold more. And how much water is in it, and how good the cell membrane is, your cell membrane integrity.
Wow. Okay.
It's called phase angle. So I have all those numbers now. I was disgusted at my body fat percentage.
Disgusted.
I was like, dude, this is what happened. Apparently I'm skinny fat now. I mean, not really, but like I kind of am compared to what I normally am.
Yeah.
So dry fasting just shreds abdominal fat like crazy.
Okay.
And that seems to be where a lot of mine is held. So I got all the measurements this morning, and then I'm going to do them afterwards and see where I'm at.
Oh, there we go. This is like the full Tim Ferriss approach here.
Yeah, we can actually. Yeah, normally I'm on the feeling and intuition side, but I saw this come up on eBay. I'm like, dude, I'm getting this, and I'm gonna measure the dry fast.
Well, let's do it, man. I'm very curious. Let's create the open loop right now.
All right. Yeah. Let's go over it.
Timing. Yeah.
Yeah, and for people listening, like dry fast it's pretty extreme, but I will say if you do a 1-day dry fast, which I kind of do those pretty regularly, it resets your gut. It only takes 24 hours for the top lining of your gut, though it's like 1 cell layer thick, to replace itself.
Wow. And that's so when you, let's just say a 1-day, and obviously do your own research too, folks, but literally just don't eat, don't drink anything is you simple.
You eat dinner
night before.
Yeah, all that, and then you don't eat or drink anything until dinner at the same time.
Next day.
Yep.
All right.
It's so like I don't know exactly why. I suspect it's because I literally used to have a job spraying herbicides in college,
Oh,
which
wow.
that's 2,4-D, so that's glyphosate, which gives you a leaky gut, and so that's one of the reasons I'm big on detox. But I've always had gut challenges, and a 1 or 2 day dry fast, it like resets the gut for a long time.
I'm intrigued. Well, after this thing I'm doing, which I didn't do a ton of research, but I did enough to where I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I know I'm doing something right. And I figured after an illness, like it's probably a good time to detox the body a little bit here. So,
Yeah, the Russians combine water fasting with dry fasting.
oh, okay. Okay.
So they're not anti, nobody's anti water fasting. It's just if you go past like a week or 2 weeks, you're really getting into some gluconeogenesis there, which
Yeah.
is
I'm going two
gonna
days. I'm like, I'm not going to go crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 days is great. That's a good fast.
Yeah. So haven't done it. Yeah. And my wife's over here. She's jokingly, like literally right before this was like, I'm smelling onions cooking and all this good stuff. I'm
I
like,
know.
she's like, because she had the vid as well, but she's like, I handle it differently. I love to eat. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's interesting. I mean, animals dry fast,
Yeah,
so that's
it's true. They have to.
when
Survival.
when they're injured, they'll go curl up somewhere safe, and they won't eat or drink until they cure themselves.
Wow. Well,
So,
dude, let's create the open loop. So you're about to
yeah,
start this thing tomorrow, and I'm rooting for
tomorrow.
you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's I actually informed all my friends and my own email list because it holds me accountable. Because like
That's the best way. Yeah.
yeah, I've been a little nervous about this one, but I'm even going to try to record a video every day too. Because if like August Dunning's doing, he's in his 70s. I'm like, come on, man, like I should be able
Come
to
on.
do this.
Do it, man.
He's
So
out
I
there
will.
walking around and like on the beach. I'm like, dude.
Well, you did say you're like, because I asked you about it. I'm like, with kids, probably harder because you're constantly young kids, that is,
Yeah.
mobile. But then I asked you if you're working out. You're like, hell no.
No, you can't work out. It's
Yeah.
something I've thought about because I'm dating somebody now, and
Uh-huh.
it's going really good. It's been a year, and
Good.
she's brought up the kids thing, and I'm like, I really thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Like, I have to invest in these anti-aging practices as much as I can right now and kind of front load it if and when I would have a child or kids, because that's going to be a big energy expenditure,
It's
like
a massive one, yeah. And the fact that you're thinking that way ahead of time, I mean, it's the best. I'm actually on YouTube right now trying to find your channel because I want to keep you accountable and say I'm going to be watching.
Oh, I don't have any I don't have
videos yet.
anything uploaded. Yeah, it was man, it was like that. It's a whole story there.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it is set up, and I'm slowly re-uploading the old videos I had
I remember.
that were on there. Yeah, but
You'll reboot, man. But this is a good way to reboot the whole thing. Go out with a bang. And all right, well, let's wrap it here. At the this has been fun, and we'll do this recap way sooner. We'll probably do like you and I will schedule something where we can just jump right into it after, while it's still kind of fresh for you,
Absolutely, yeah, we'll do it. I would say within about 3 to 7 days, you're kind of recovered.
Okay.
It's like surgery, dude. Like you're still laid out after you end it.
Well, you text me when you're thinking, and we'll just jam and do something for me. It might be a little shorter thing, but like I want to put it out there, just maybe a little bonus episode or something.
Yeah, let's do it. My 79-year-old mom, I think, is going to do a 24-hour the first day. So
there we go. Let's go, Theo's mom.
Yeah. So, well, this was great,
All right,
man. Thank you for sharing the AI tools. I haven't really gotten in there yet because it just overwhelmed me. There's like so many tools that just like shut down.
Well, you're not alone in that, and so the thing is that like I'm just in it in what I do, but I realize that there's either people that are overwhelmed or people that are fearful.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? The thing was, it's built by humans. There's a human side of it that's never going to go away. It's the most
Yep.
powerful.
Yep.
So, like, how do we leverage this cool technology that's never going to slow down and use it to make our lives great? Like, we can do it. It's like a reframe, and it's kind of like how I described writing out, tens of thousands of words, and how you can use AI to now, like, really start to analyze myself or maybe poke holes in things that could make it even better,
So
my
cool.
reality. So
Yeah.
you'll see me on YouTube, like, starting to go more that angle, as because I'm seeing there's just a lot of people that are like so damn fearful or hate or what. It's like, well, it's like any other tool that we've ever
I
had.
mean,
So,
this is the first conversation I've had that has been actionable for me or impactful with AI tools, because both the ones you mentioned, I'm like, oh, I could totally use that right now, and that seems really helpful. Where the other conversations I've had around it have been around people that are like super techie and like really enthused,
Yep.
and I'm just like overwhelmed. Like I'm like, because it's like, oh, there's this new cool tool, like here it is, and I'm like, well, what does this do? I don't know. I'm already on to the next one. Like, you should check this out.
Those are the
too.
early adopters, and you know what? You should be all over Matt Wolf's channel then,
Yeah.
because that guy lives and breathes it, and he's made for it, and that's why I
Oh,
love to say.
I'm subscribed to see
Oh,
this
you
stuff
should
come
be.
up.
Everyone should be. I love the guy because he's so damn. He's like, he's in his zone, and that's where I've finally figured out. And I think this is not
Yeah.
finally, but I'm like, dude, there's a massive need for people like us because
Yes.
I'm a little earlier, but at the same time, I'm not as techie nor on the bleeding edge like he is, but I'm pretty close to the edge enough to, like, talk it through and
you
apply.
make it relatable, and just to finish on this topic, you like, for people listening, we have a friend. His name's Brad. He's a great dude, and he runs multiple businesses. But he was extremely tech averse, and he would get really triggered when stuff wouldn't work with like ClickFunnels or just tech stuff, or trying to get software APIs to talk to each other, and like he'd just get so, and it would just shut him down, and he wouldn't get as much done. And he just uses the paid version of ChatGPT, and he uses it as his personal tech assistant.
There you go.
And now he's so much more productive because he doesn't have these tech bottlenecks or log jams. And like, he actually taught me that technique, because like I couldn't get a hold of somebody who I normally talk to when I have a issue with ClickFunnels, and ClickFunnels support is just not there. So I actually called Brad, and he's like, dude, I swear, he's like, you're gonna think this is crazy, just type it into ChatGPT. And I'm like, I don't know, like, how? And he's like, no, just exactly like you're explaining the problem to me, do it. So I did it on the phone with them, and it was like perfectly correct. I was like, no way, it just solved the tech problem.
Literally that. So now I would recommend check out Perplexity.
Yeah.
Just for you, because for everyone listening, watching, it's now tapping into real time sources online. Whereas ChatGPT it's delayed by like 6-ish months or so.
Okay.
It's like trained on a bunch of data, but
Yeah.
Perplexity that's why it's like Google meets
Okay.
ChatGPT kind of thing.
I'm into
Very
that.
simplified version, but yeah, poke
Sweet.
around in there.
Great.
Brother, appreciate you.
Yeah.
I hope, I know everything's going to go great. Hopefully you found a nice, safe place for 7 days to chill out in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm at Minnesota on the farm, man.
You're good.
My mom still lives on it, so it's chill, dude.
So you're with her that's even better, man. Get her in the videos if she's down for it.
I will, yeah. I come back twice a year and help her out with stuff
Good.
on the property and help her with her health and stuff. And
Good,
yeah,
man.
it's great.
Well, props to you, brother. Thanks for opening my eyes to so much, and I know everyone else is, I'm sure, are probably buzzing their brains all over the place. So do your own research and check out the previous episodes with Theo too, because they're all bangers like this.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, man. Be well.
All right, brother. We'll see you.